Jeff Bridges has had a streak of splendid luck lately. He was able to finally finish the shoot for the FX thriller The Old Man, is riding the high from the commercial and critical success of said thriller, and just welcomed a grandson and a puppy into his life. That wasn't always the case. Not too long ago, Bridges was unsure if he would be able to make it any further when COVID hit him shortly after his cancer diagnosis. First up, Jeff Bridges almost surrendered to COVID. Bridges' troubles with health began in early March 2020. A strict lockdown had followed the rapid spread of COVID in the US, and the filming for The Old Man was paused amidst an air of uncertainty. One morning, while working out at his home, the actor realized something wasn't quite right with his stomach. A checkup revealed an extraordinary 12 by 9-inch tumor in his body. Oh Lord. In his own words, the growth was the size of a baby, yet he never really felt its presence or any of the accompanying pain. His physicians quickly put him onto a regimen of chemotherapy and other treatments. First was chemotherapy by infusion, then came oral chemo. Things were looking up. The tumor imploded, and it looked like an end to Jeff's trials. The chemo, however, eroded his immunity. He was still reeling from its effects when his health took a turn for the worse in January 2021. He was hit by COVID. The virus was so strong, it made the cancer look like nothing. He had to be hospitalized for 5 months and live with extreme agony and some of the worst COVID symptoms. Breathless, he couldn't even roll in bed without calling to a nurse. His spirit was intact, and for the most part, he battled on. There did come a moment when he was sure he wouldn't make it. The actor, who has described himself as Buddhistly slanted, imagined what it would be like to just surrender. Even as he faltered, what kept him going? Jeff steadied himself quickly after his resolve wavered. Very soon, he had retained the grit that has carried him through his life. To help him regain strength, the medical team started with the most exercises. In one, he had to practice standing up. For his ravaged body, even that was no mean feat. For a long time, he could only manage 45 seconds. When his doctors had him practice short walks, he would visualize his daughter's wedding as his literal and metaphorical destination. She would want him to walk her down the aisle, and Jeff decided this was not an experience that would be robbed from her. With each baby step, he was closer to joy shared with his family. As Jeff toiled hard in his recovery, doctors were experimenting with plasma transfusions for the severest COVID cases. Jeff's body was particularly responsive to the treatment. As his body began to heal, the world around him also seemed to be recovering from a dark cloud that had hung over it. Businesses were opening back up, shoots were resuming, and before long, Jeff could return to the shoot of The Old Man. What did the beginning after the end look like? Jeff Bridges got a second lease not only on his life, but also on his career. While the cast and crew of The Old Man were happy just to see him hale and hearty, such a sweet phrase, why did we ever stop using it? Jeff was focused on giving them his best. From the get-go, he said he had stayed back on Earth because he never leaves a job incomplete. Looks like he did exceptionally well at this job. The reviews are in, and Jeff Bridges shone in his role as a former CIA operative who finds himself once again in a labyrinthine task. Now, an unlikely friendship? Apart from fulfilling work, Jeff also seems to have found a lifelong friend on set. Even while he was in remission for cancer or straining under COVID, Bridges found time to keep in touch with co-star John Lithgow over emails. When they finally met on set, there were no tired pleasantries or awkward conversations. It was like reuniting with an old friend. The chemistry between the two is apparent on screen. The cat and mouse chase between the two powers much of the tension in the thriller series. This was the first time the two greats had come together, and also Jeff's first time doing a prestige-era series. Lithgow, who has worked in The Crown and Dexter, could have nudged Jeff along on his journey, except he had no advice to give. In a recorded conversation with Bridges, Lithgow said it was absurd to offer advice to a legend as Jeff. There may have been no paternalistic advice, but the two had plenty of good times to share with each other during the shoot. The two, in Lithgow's words, became lifelong friends, even as he believes they don't have a long stretch of life ahead. One never knows what lies ahead, so best to make life while we still have it. Looks like Jeff has a lot to be grateful for in his latest installment in life. And now for other news. After The Old Man, Jon Watts set to direct Star Wars for Disney+. The Old Man may have been a departure from Jon Watts' earlier style with the Spider-Man franchise. Now, though, he is ready to return to his science fiction adventure roots with the next installment in the Star Wars franchise. The upcoming series won't just mine the Star Wars lore for plotlines. It is said to be inspired by the coming-of-age adventure films that became a trademark from Amblin Entertainment in the 80s. So like a mixture of the eerie thrill of Jurassic Park, the unexpected humor of Back to the Future, and of course, a croaky, weirdly shaped supernatural character. This galactic story will apparently have a YA touch, as it follows a group of 4 tweens after the fall of the Empire. We say apparently because, as our snooping around showed, the casting call for the film has asked for 4 adolescents between the ages of 11 to 14, which means there are only 2 possibilities: 4 kid protagonists, or 1 really tall protagonist made by stacking the kids on top of each other and hiding them in a long coat. Which one do you think is more likely? Disney Plus is, however, doing a good job of keeping the film hidden from prying eyes such as ours. Even the name hasn't been released yet. In the hallowed halls of the production company's offices, it is known under the codename Grammar Rodeo. As anyone with a less than ideal childhood and a perfect memory of The Simpsons might recall, this is a nod to the episode where Bart and his friends bunk school, take off on a road trip under the pretense that they are leaving for a national grammar rodeo event for the school. Speaking of, a new season of The Simpsons drops in fall 2022 to keep you busy until Disney Plus releases the film, or at least reveals its name. Next, here is how The Old Man star Alia Shawkat hopes to change Hollywood. If you happen to watch The Old Man, given the show premiered on June 16, we won't blame you if you haven't, you may have noticed a particularly inquisitive scene stealer, Alia Shawkat. If you couldn't quite put your finger on where you had seen her before, let us tell you. Alia was a fixture on Arrested Development as Maybe Funky, a seriously accomplished con artist with a dogged attraction towards various cousins. More recently, fans might remember her from the A24 thriller Green Room, but most of us really lie about having watched A24 films, so maybe not. We haven't watched a single one, yet written detailed reviews on each on Letterboxd. No, we will not reveal our username. Coming back, acting hasn't always been smooth sailing for Alia. This might have something to do with her Middle Eastern heritage that many Hollywood executives recoil from. As she recounted, she always had to say she was half Spanish or half French to become palatable to audiences and executives alike. Now, however, she is thankful that the conversation is shifting, and she hopes her interesting repertoire would expand the kinds of roles available to people like her. Here's the heartwarming way The Old Man star keeps busy. Gabenga Akinagbe's character, Julian Carson, is one of the many people on a futile chase of Bridges' character, Dan Chase. The man, who has had a spattering of roles in The Wire and Nurse Jackie, finds time, despite his career, to feel and practice compassion towards the world. Through his lifestyle brand, Liberation Company, he provides financial support to organizations like the Trayvon Martin Foundation and Black Women's Blueprint. He is also deeply invested in the cause of incarcerated folk. Refoundry, the Brooklyn-based organization he is the board president of, helps teach skills like woodworking or sewing to people affected by incarceration to prepare them for a career once they are freed. It is one thing for an actor to continually improve at his craft, and quite another for them to be a fantastic human being as well. It has been life-affirming to see Gabenga do both.